If you've ever felt like you've been carrying way too much for way too long, mistaking that heavy weight of just surviving for being mature, then this is for you. We're going to break down those patterns, talk about setting some boundaries, and start reclaiming a role you might have lost a long time ago, the role of just being you.
So, let's just jump right in with a question that gets to the absolute heart of it. Have you ever felt more like a parent than a child? Like, really think about it. Were you the one managing all the emotions, putting out all the fires, or basically holding the entire family together while, quietly falling apart on the inside? If that just hits you in the chest, well, you're in the right place.
All right, so let's start by giving a name to this whole experience. Because when you can name something, you can finally start to understand it, right? This is all about recognizing a dynamic that is so common, but it's one that often goes completely unspoken in families.
So the official term for this is parentification, and it really breaks down into two main types. On one hand, you've got instrumental parentification. That's all the practical stuff. We're talking cooking, cleaning, maybe even managing family money. But then there's the other side, and honestly, this one can be even more damaging. It's emotional parentification. This is when you're basically cast as your parent's therapist, their marriage counselor, their best friend, the family peacemaker. Your childhood pretty much becomes a full-time job you never even applied for.
And this often goes hand in hand with another concept called emotional incest. Now let's be super clear here. This has absolutely nothing to do with anything physical. It's all about a parent crossing emotional boundaries. They start leaning on their child for the kind of support that should be coming from other adults, from their partners or friends. You can think of parentification as the job you were given. Emotional incest is the blurring of those boundaries that made that job feel not only possible, but normal.
And wow, this quote from Dr. Jonas Webb it says it all, doesn't it? Growing up too soon isn't some badge of honor. It's a wound. It is, quite literally, a theft of the time you were supposed to be playing and learning and just being a kid. So how does this actually look in real life? Because for so many people, this dynamic just felt normal. So normal that it's hard to even spot it as a problem. Let's look at some of the really common signs that you might have been put in this role you never asked for.
Do any of these feel a little too familiar? Maybe you were the emotional therapist, always trying to soothe the parent who was struggling. Or maybe you were the manager of your siblings, making sure they did their homework, making sure they were okay. Or maybe you just ran the household. You did the cooking, cleaning, shopping. Or you were the family diplomat, always smoothing things over at family gatherings. For some, it even went as far as becoming a breadwinner, bringing in money way before you ever should have had to. Each of these roles teaches you that your value is tied to what you do for others.
And here it is. This is the core of the whole thing. This wasn't a choice you made. It was a silent, unspoken expectation. You stepped up because you had to. Because if you didn't, who would have? And that feeling of necessity, that's what locks you in. So it is so crucial to understand the difference between healthy responsibility and this kind of burden. Look, in a healthy family, you're part of a team. You help out, you learn new skills, but you still have the freedom to just be a kid. Parentification? That's a whole different world. That's when you feel guilty for having your own needs. It's when you have to swallow your own feelings just to keep the peace. It's when you're basically replacing a parent who isn't or can't be there. Okay, and this is where it gets really tricky and confusing. Because so often, this whole dynamic is disguised as something good. You're told you're special. You're their rock. But that so-called closeness, it can very quickly become a cage. Oh, have you heard this one before? I bet you have. It's the classic line. And it totally sounds like a compliment, right? But let's take a closer look at what's actually being said.
Because here's the translation. It's, I need you to meet my needs. That praise, it isn't really about celebrating you. It's a tool. It's a manipulation to keep you in that role. It's a way of saying, please take care of my problems so I don't have to.
And you can see these roles often fall into really predictable patterns. A daughter becomes the mini-mom who deeply believes the family will just collapse without her. A son becomes the surrogate partner, hearing things like, you're the man of the house now, or you're the only one I can really trust. You see, it stops being about love and starts being about function. Okay, so we've identified the problem, we've given it a name, and now we get to the hopeful part. Let's talk about reclaiming your right to just rest, to play, to give yourself the childhood you may have missed out on. This is where the real healing starts.
And it begins with small, gentle steps. First, rest without asking permission. I know, this can feel totally radical, but you don't have to earn it. Stillness can just be enough. Second, practice saying no without that crushing wave of guilt. Not every request is your responsibility. And third, play. Play without a purpose. Pick up a hobby just for the fun of it, not because you're going to be good at it. Be silly. This isn't about going backwards, it's about restoration.
And to help you with this, I want you to ask yourself this really powerful question. What did you need when you were 10 years old that you never got? Was it just permission to play? Was it a moment of peace? Was it someone to ask what you needed for a change? The answer to that question can become your roadmap to reparenting yourself today. Now, a massive part of this healing journey is learning how to set boundaries. And for someone who is trained to be a people pleaser, this can feel like the ultimate act of betrayal. But we have to reframe that. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is an act of self-preservation. I absolutely love this metaphor. Boundaries aren't about building giant walls to shut everyone out of your life. They're about installing a door with a lock, and you get to decide who gets a key. You decide who comes in, when they come in, and what they get access to. It's about taking your power back. So how do you even start? You start small. Something simple and consistent, like, I'm not available to talk after 9 p.m. Use I statements. And this is a big one. You don't need to over-explain or justify it. A simple no is a complete sentence. And yes, you should expect some pushback. The old system worked really well for them, but their reaction is not your responsibility to manage. Not anymore.
And we'll end on this final, really powerful thought. Healing isn't about becoming a better version of the person your parents wanted you to be. It's about rediscovering the person you were before they needed you to be something more. That person, they're still in there, just waiting for you to finally choose them.